Welcome back, focused learners. Today we're diving into another explainer, and this time we're unpacking the architecture of adaptive radiation. You know, if you've ever looked around at the natural world and just wondered, wait, how did one single ancestral species manage to branch out into the absolute sheer diversity of life we see today? Well, buckle up, because we're going to break down exactly how nature pulls that off. So, how does one ancestral species become many? I mean, it's pretty much the ultimate mystery of evolutionary biology, right? Just think about the scale of it for a second. You start with this single isolated population of animals. Then you fast forward through time and boom, suddenly you've got dozens of completely different descendant species. And every single one of them is totally customized to live in completely different ways. How exactly does nature pull off that kind of extreme makeover? Let's get into it. Section 1. Darwin and the Finches. So to really grasp this, we've got to travel back to when Charles Darwin first arrived at the Galapagos Islands. This trip basically laid the entire foundation for our understanding of adaptive radiation. Darwin's time there provided these absolutely critical insights that changed biology forever. And you know what? It all started with just an ordinary group of birds. He observed these really striking variations in the beak shapes and sizes among the local finches. Now, these specific physical adaptations, they weren't just random flukes. They were directly driven by the really intense demands of the diverse habitats spread across those islands. Because think about it, different islands meant totally different food sources, so surviving literally meant having the precise biological tools for the job. For example, some of these finches developed long, slender beaks. These are basically nature's precision tweezers, ideally designed for delicately extracting nectar from flowers. But then, on the flip side, others evolved short, sturdier beaks that function like heavy-duty nutcrackers. Perfect for cracking open those really hard seeds. And here's the crazy part, it's the exact same family of bird, just equipped with totally different tool sets. This profound observation is actually what led Darwin to propose that species evolve these highly specific adaptations based on exactly what their local environment demands of them to survive. So the crucial point is, this right here is adaptive radiation. By definition, it's an evolutionary process where a single ancestral species diversifies into a multitude of different forms, with each one uniquely suited to thrive in various environments. So picture it. One original species of bird lands on the Galapagos, and over time, it radiates outward. It adapts into multiple different forms just so they can survive in all the weird and wonderful microenvironments those islands have to offer. It's just an incredibly powerful concept, and it literally lays the groundwork for Earth's entire biodiversity. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 2, Mechanisms of Adaptive Radiation. All right, so we know what happens, but how does it actually happen? Well, the mechanism usually kicks off with a very specific trigger, a new environment that presents a whole range of unoccupied ecological niches. Now, if you're wondering what an ecological niche is, think of it like a job opening in nature. Different species have different roles they can fill. This whole scenario where a bunch of brand new jobs suddenly become available often pops up after massive geological events, or when a species colonizes a brand new territory, kind of like those original finches arriving at the Galapagos. Suddenly, boom, there's a whole new world of opportunity, and absolutely no competitors holding those jobs yet. So, naturally, this plays out in a pretty logical sequence. Step 1, you've got those unoccupied niches, the empty job roles we just talked about. Then step 2, that single ancestral population begins to diversify to actually take advantage of these new environments. Which brings us to step 3, the real engine of the whole thing, natural selection. Natural selection steps in and favors specific physical traits that enhance an animal's ability to survive and reproduce in that exact context. Like, if you happen to have a slightly stronger beak, you get to eat the hard seeds, meaning you survive to pass on that stronger beak trait. Make sense? Then we move to step 4, geographic isolation. Natural barriers, like the stretch of water between the Galapagos Islands, eventually split populations apart. This leads to reproductive isolation. They stop mixing their genes. And finally, step 5, speciation. Those isolated groups have adapted so perfectly to their specific job that they literally become completely new species. Let's move to and see how this builds Section 3, Marsupials and Convergent Evolution. And this brilliantly illustrates how filling these unoccupied roles works on a global scale. We can actually look at the predatory niche as a great example. Over in Australia, the top predatory role was historically filled by the Tasmanian wolf. Now, that's a marsupial, meaning it raises its young in a pouch. But look at other regions of the world.
that exact same predatory job is filled by the placental wolf, which is, you guessed it, a placental mammal. These two animals occupy the exact same ecological niche in their respective environments, but here's the kicker. They are not closely related at all. They come from completely separate evolutionary lineages, yet they evolved in parallel to fulfill the exact same function.
And that brings us to convergent evolution. It's a phenomenon where species that are not closely related independently evolve similar traits to fulfill similar ecological functions in their respective environments. See, because the marsupials of Australia were totally isolated on their own massive continent, they went through their own unique process of adaptive radiation. So they actually adapted in parallel to the placental mammals on other continents, because the ecological niches, the available jobs, were fundamentally the same. The environment demanded a swift predator, right? So evolution independently built a wolf out of a marsupial in Australia and a wolf out of a placental mammal everywhere else. Nature basically just found two different ways to fill the exact same role.
Section 4. Shaping Earth's Biodiversity.
When we zoom out from these localized examples like the finches and the wolves, we can really start to see the full scope of this architecture. First off, it demonstrates the absolutely staggering impact of natural selection as the relentless architect of life. Second, it really highlights how deeply interconnected life forms are, how they're constantly adapting over these vast stretches of time to meet the unique challenges posed by their ever-changing surroundings. And finally, this remarkable concept is literally what shapes the rich tapestry of life on Earth. Every diverse, highly specialized creature we share this beautiful planet with, they are all the result of these incredible evolutionary journeys. Journeys of a single lineage, constantly reaching out, adapting, and finding a way to thrive in absolutely every possible corner of the globe.
So I want to leave you with this final thought today. Where else in your environment can you see the rich tapestry of life adapting to its surroundings? Because the truth is, adaptive radiation and natural selection aren't just these ancient events that happened millions of years ago, or things that only occur in isolated spots like the Galapagos or the Australian outback. It is an ongoing, active process happening all around us right now. Seriously, the next time you step outside, take a closer look at the birds in your local park, or even just the insects in your garden. Look at the specific roles they're playing, and ask yourself, how might they have adapted to secure that specific niche? Thank you so much for joining me for this Explainer Focus Learners.